After last year's release of AB Phaser, many of you were writing us emails about a specific follow-up plugin. Well, here it is. Allow me to introduce to you AB Chorus. My name is Alejandro and we are the Audio Brewers. AB Chorus is an immersive chorus that works in all three dimensions, as it works internally in ambisonics. This means that it doesn't matter if you're feeding it mono, stereo, or ambisonic signals, and it doesn't matter if you're working in stereo, in surround 5.1, in Dolby Atmos, or even in custom speaker arrays, because AB Chorus will always process the signal in this three-dimensional sound field that happens around our head before it outputs it for you to decode it to whatever your speaker array is. So I have here a very simple session in which I have mono, stereo, and ambisonics tracks. And before exploring the session, I'm going to walk you through the main controls of AB Chorus using my monophonic recording. So first of all, I have here a mono guitar with no effects aside for a compressor, just to get rid a little bit of these picks. And if I press play, it sounds like this. Okay, so this is a very ordinary monophonic guitar. So I'm just gonna go and I'm going to open one session of AB Chorus. And because this is a mono recording, I am going to make sure to set the input to be mono so that the plugin does its thing correctly. And as you can see, this plugin looks very much like our AB Phaser because they follow the same philosophy. I have here 3 slots. Each slot represents a dimension. So we have here the width slot, which is whatever is on our left and on our right. We have here the height slot, which is whatever is above us and below us. And I have here the depth slot, which is whatever is in front and behind us. So first of all, what I'm going to do is show you all the controls per slot because every control repeats in each of the dimensions. So for that, I'm just going to mute 2 of the dimensions so that this becomes a little bit more audible. And I'm just going to leave working the width dimension, which is whatever is happening on the left and on the right. So just like in any chorus, you have the rate control, which is the rate at which the frequency oscillates. So if I press play and mess with this, you can see that you can go all the way from 0 to 15 Hertz. It's very easily controllable, and you can even click on this to change the settings manually. So if I increase the mix so as to hear only whatever is being processed by the chorus, you can see here that you can combine whatever is happening between the wet and the dry signal. So this is the rate. Second of all, we have the depth, which is the depth at which this oscillator happens. It can go all the way from 0% to 200%. Whatever is above 100% is pushing the limits of a chorus a little bit. So you might use it with caution, maybe for sound design, but generally speaking, the depth in a chorus should be something a little bit on the low side. So I'm just gonna start for the low side and you will see how the depth of this rate oscillates. So it's a pretty cool thing. You can do little effects such as like a vinyl detuning effect, but you can also work like a traditional chorus. It's really, really cool. Then you can also control the center of the delay all the way from 0 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds. The higher you do this, the more you're gonna notice a delay in your signal. So if I just press play, as you can see, when I put it higher, you can hear that the delay is happening not exactly when the hit of the dry signal is happening, but a little bit more delay. It's very noticeable. And if I put it lower, it happens more seamlessly. Then you also have control over the center of the delay, all the way from 0 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds. The higher you put this setting, the more noticeable the delay of the chorus is gonna be. You can hear that while I pick, you have the delay very noticeable behind what the dry signal is doing. And if I do it lower, it's less noticeable, but it also affects how the depth of the delay interacts with the dry signal. You can hear as if almost it cuts the oscillation a little bit when the depth is higher. Check it out. So pretty much you have to be playing with the depth and the centered until you find the sound that you like. Then we have the feedback. Generally in a chorus there is no feedback, but we decided to include a feedback so that you can feed the signal back and create interesting effects. Maybe you are working on a sound design project, or maybe you're working in experimental music. This could be very useful. Check it out. And equally, you have negative feedback, which is going to create even more interesting effects. So you can see that it gives you a lot of gain. Finally, you have a gain over the dimension, which means that if you have a signal that is monophonic, and you want to increase the gain of, for example, the left and the right dimensional poles, you can just control this gain. Or maybe you want to increase the signal over the top and bottom dimension, you can increase the gain, and the same with the depth. And next you have the offset control, which to me is something that enriches all your signal even further. So we have here a mono signal. Whatever I do with the chorus, it's going to always work in mono because the oscillation is happening all around me at the same rate with the same setting, so nothing is changing. So let's just say that I have something like this. And I have here this little knob, which is going to control the offset. This means that this will offset the oscillation sine wave between each of the dimensional poles. So in this case, it's going to go between the left and the right dimensional poles, here top bottom and here front back. And it's going to offset it all the way from 0, which is going to be right in the middle, to 100, which is going to be the signal offset for one whole cycle. So as I spread this offset, you will hear that the signal just kind of expands. Check it out. So as soon as you move this control just a little bit, you can already hear that the signal just expands all around you. And I'm just using one dimension because remember that I have muted here my other two dimensions. So now I'm just using the left and the right dimensions, and you can hear that the signal just became so much more rich. If I put this to the whole 100%, you will see how it sounds. It just goes from left to right, from left to right. So always when I'm working with a mono signal, I always want to increase this just a little bit, just to create a little bit of offset so that this signal spreads. Additionally, you can also link the rate to your tempo. Right now, I am working in hertz, but if I wanted to work musically, I can just do this by enabling the sync control. And as I do it, you can see here that the oscillation happens at 1 bar speed, or maybe in seconds, or maybe in fourths, or maybe in triplets of fourths, or maybe in duplets of eighths. You can go all the way from 16 triplets to 32 bars just to make a very long chorus. It's really, really cool. And finally, something that makes this even more interesting is that I have here my width dimensional plane, but let's just say that I wanted to control independently what is happening on my left dimensional pole or on my right dimensional pole. Well, all I have to do is just click in this button, and you will see that now you have control over each of the dimensional poles. So here you have the control of the rate on the left and right, of the depth on the left and right, etc. And you can do this for each dimension. So you can even unlink everything, and you have control over the phaser in the front of you, on your left, on your right, behind you, above you, and below you. This all includes the gain control. So you can even, I don't know, like perhaps remove one dimensional pole. Is really, really cool. So just let me reset everything. So right now, everything has the same settings. Let me just remove the link. But if I change, for example, the rates on the right dimensional pole, let's just make it, I don't know, something here. You can hear that now the signal sounds differently on the left dimensional pole and on the right dimensional pole. Remember, I'm talking about dimensional poles because this plugin is speaker agnostic. So it doesn't matter how many speakers you're gonna be using at the end. Whatever is on your left side or is receiving signal from whatever is on your left side is going to have these settings applied. Let's just increase the depth of one of the sides. So you can hear that this becomes a very, very complex tool if you wish to do complex projects. So now let's just create a very basic chorus that will adapt to this guitar. And I'm going to be using the 3 dimensions. So first, I'm just going to unmute the other 2 dimensions. And I'm just going to create something real quick. I'm just going to link this. And I'm going to, I don't know. Okay, so as you can see, I was working here on each of the 3 dimensions, and now I'm just going to mix them together and see how this sounds. So you can hear that it enriches your signal quite a lot. Then you have your mix control, which will allow you to blend your dry and wet signals. But you also have your void control, which means that for mono or stereo signals, let's just say that you want to increase the richness it has in the 3 dimensions. You can always work with a void algorithm so that it just makes the signal a bit more full. Check it out. So this is just an extra step to make your signal a bit bigger on the sound field. And finally, you have your global mix control, which will allow you to control the dry and the wet signals. But this time you are working post-spatial control, meaning that if you rotate your 3-dimensional sound field, by lowering here the mix, you will always have the original sound right there where it is originally. So for example, if I lower this all the way to 0 and I press play, you can see that nothing happens if I am rotating. But if I put it, let's just say in 50%, you can see that the dry signal is right there where it is originally. And then we have our reset button, which all it does is resets the oscillators so that they start from 0 again. And finally, we have also our modulators. When you enable the modulators, you see that you have 4 modulators that appear on screen. And you see that next to the controls that can be modulated, you have 4 buttons for assigning them to each modulator. So this is a very cool tool if you are doing sound design, because it will allow you to modulate whatever your settings are. So let's just say that I wanted to assign the depth of my width to the first modulator. All I have to do is press on the first button. And you can see that it's going all the way from 0 to 100 over 1 second, because right now the modulator 1 is in 1 second. I can increase this all the way to 20 seconds. Or I can decrease this all the way to 100 milliseconds. And then I can also control the limits of each modulator. Right now, this is going from 0 to 100, but let's just say I wanted to go to the half of the knob. So I'm just going to grab this slider here and bring it to the half. And you can see that now this is coming back at around the half of the knob. And like that, you can shape your sound. You can do crazy things with 4 modulators. Each modulator can be controllable from 100 milliseconds to 20 seconds. You can control the limits of each modulator, and you can even assign many controls to one same modulator to create, I don't know, interesting sounds. And just like that, you have a fully fledged 3-dimensional chorus that will work in your music or in your sound design projects. Now let's bring this to the real world. I'm just going to show you what I have done here to mix my song. So I'm just going to unload this chorus. And I'm going to start with this guitar. So as I had mentioned in the beginning, this guitar only has one compressor just to compress the attacks. And I have added 2 choruses. So I am stacking 2 choruses together. So if I press play, you can see here that the first chorus is a very, very soft chorus that is happening very slowly. And it's working in input mono, output stereo, because it is receiving a mono signal and it is outputting a stereo signal. Our plugins will always output either a stereo or an ambisonic signal. So this is our first chorus, and I have stacked a second chorus after this. So if I open it, the first thing you notice is that this second chorus is receiving a stereo signal. That is because the previous chorus is already producing a stereo signal. So the second chorus is already receiving the stereo signal that the first chorus has produced. And the output, again, is in stereo. So if I enable it, you can hear that this is a much faster chorus. So yeah, I'm doing one chorus for slow changes and one chorus for very, very fast changes. So if I A-B this guitar, it works really, really well. Then another thing that I have done is just duplicate this track of the guitar. I have modified the settings of the choruses slightly, just so that the oscillation happens at different rates. And I have sent one guitar to my left side a little bit and the other guitar to my right side. So I'm just going to bring this back to the left. And if I check my 2 guitars, you can even offset each of these guitars a little bit, just so as to create a haze effect if you wish to increase the spread. I didn't do it, but up to you. So finally, what I did is just to send this couple of guitars to a reverb using my sends, just to glue them together and to glue the whole mix together a little bit. So if we check our reverb, you can see that this is a 3rd order ambisonics channel. Nuendo is automatically encoding this signal to ambisonics once it's being sent, which is pretty cool. So I loaded my reverb in ambisonics and it's output a signal in ambisonics, and then the signal is being decoded to stereo. So if I press play just to hear how this sounds with the reverb, it's a very, very, very soft reverb, but it glues things together a little bit. Now, this is how the chorus sounds with mono signals. Let's just move to our ambisonic signal, which is quite interesting because for this signal, I have used the Soyuz Ambisonics microphone to record the guitar. And here I have the raw recording, meaning that the first insert I have added is the transcoder to convert the A format to B format. I have put the microphone upside down here, and I have set the profile to be 013A, which is the profile of the Soyuz microphone. Then I have added a compressor just to compress the attacks a little bit, and then I have added a rotator. Let me show you why I did this. If you check the original signal, you can see that the correlation is a bit to the left, meaning that I was sitting a bit to the left, but I wanted the guitar to sound in the middle. So all I did was just load a rotator and rotated the signal a little bit so that the guitar sounds in the center. There is no quality loss on this because remember, this is an ambisonic signal, so you can rotate the signal as you wish. So if I press play now, you can see that now the correlation is right in the center. So here we have our three-dimensional acoustic guitar recording with no chorus inserted. So if I press play, you can see that you have the signal right in the middle. You can hear that the guitar is just a natural sounding guitar. And then I have added my chorus. Now, you will also see that this is a third order ambisonics channel, while this is a first order ambisonics recording. Why did I do this? And that is because AB chorus works in higher order ambisonics. So under the hood, it will always work in up to 7th order ambisonics, and it will adapt to the order you're working in. Because Nuendo works up to 3rd order ambisonics, I am completely taking advantage of this. The chorus is going to work in 3rd order ambisonics. If I were using another DAW that supports up to 7th order ambisonics, the chorus will work in 7th order ambisonics. It will always detect the order that it can provide to you. So let's just load the chorus, and you can see here that the input is in ambisonics because the guitar is in ambisonics and the output is in ambisonics. So if I press play and enable the chorus, so for this chorus, what I did was a bit experimental. What I wanted to check was how it behaved in the 3 dimensions. Right now, we're working in stereo because YouTube, but if you were working in Dolby Atmos, because I have lowered the gain of the bottom dimensional pole, you will hear that there is a lot of predominance above your head if you are using height speakers, which is pretty cool. But also, I have given a lot of gain to the back because I want the back of the recording to be a little bit more intense because I am trying to create space for whatever is going to be in front. So it's a pretty interesting effect. You can see even in the visualizer that the back has a lot of volume in comparison to the bypassed chorus. So that's pretty cool. Finally, I am also sending this guitar to my reverb channel just because I want to glue this guitar with the other guitars and the other instruments. So all I do is just enable this send, and if I listen to it, you can see now that it has a little bit of reverb. So if I put the guitars together, you can already see that it's starting to get a very, very wide sound, wide feeling. Then I have here my contact instrument instances, which is our Signals Green virtual instrument. It works natively in ambisonics. So all I had to do is add a decoder here and add a chorus. I just wanted to create a chorus just to make the palpitations a little bit more noticeable. So if I bypass this and I press play, you can hear that there is palpitations happening, and I have added the chorus at 16ths just to increase the sensation of these palpitations. Check it out. So the intention was just that, just to create these palpitations, make them a little bit more noticeable. This is just a feeling track, just because I wanted to give a little bit more of bass and a little bit more of softness to the song. And the cool thing is that because the instrument is in ambisonics, it will adapt to your Dolby Atmos mix should you use this format. So if I listen to this together, you see that now I have here the structure of my song, and the final touch is going to be a lead voice, which is going to be this little guy that I have recorded here using my iPad, because AB Chorus is also available for iPad. It works in stereo, but it is completely available and you can get it as well for your iPad. So what I did here is just load AB Chorus with an instance of GeoShred in my iPad and just recorded a little melody here. If you listen to it, it sounds like this. So you have here lead voice. Everything is happening on the iPad, which to me is an instrument, an extra instrument. So it works really, really well. So that's my song. This is my mix in stereo. If I press play, you can hear that it sounds pretty cool. And I have just finished exploring the stereo mix. Now let's go to the Dolby Atmos mix and I will show you what I have done with this project in my Dolby Atmos 714 speaker layout. And now I have loaded my Dolby Atmos mix. Know that you can download this very mix in the link in the description below. I will assume that you already watched the stereo part of this video, so I'm not gonna go through the whole AB chorus on what I did with the effects. I'm just going to focus on what I did for working in Dolby Atmos with this very song. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the down mix to be stereo, because YouTube is in stereo. I could choose to be binaural, but I don't know how many of you are working with headphones and how many of you are working with speakers. So I'm just gonna set it to be 2.0, which is stereo. And if I press play, I can see here now that my signal is in stereo. So first of all, I have to say that each and every instrument that I am using on this recording has been made an object, a three-dimensional object, which is really, really cool. You will see how I did it. Let's start by the guitar. So first of all, I have here my acoustic guitar. You can see that my acoustic guitar, a piece of it is going to my bed. That is the reverb. If I mute my reverb, you will see that the whole acoustic guitar is going to objects. And this is a three-dimensional object. This is a 7.1.4 object, which is really, really cool innuendo that you can create three-dimensional objects. So what I did is I recorded my guitar, I added the compressor, I added the chorus, and I added the rotator just to make it just like I explained in the stereo video. But then this third order ambisonics channel, I have sent it to a 714 group channel, and I have created an object with this 714 group channel, and Nuendo will create a three-dimensional object. And by doing that, now I have control over the acoustic guitar three-dimensional object. So if I were to load this like this, and if I were to press play, you can do all sorts of things with these objects when they are three-dimensional. You can rotate them, you can change their size. This is something that you just simply cannot do with a mono or stereo objects. And this is what makes Dolby Atmos really, really cool. So if I rotate it, really, really, really cool. So all these things, you can do them. And because this is an ambisonics recording, whatever is happening in the 3 dimensions is the real recording of the guitar. Nothing is being emulated. It's really, really cool. Let me just put this back in the center. So you can see that the guitar has been left to be huge. It's occupying all my room. So if you were hearing this in a 714 environment, you will hear that the guitar is all around you. You will feel as if there was a massive guitar sounding all around you. It's really, really cool. So that's it. And this is my guitar. It's a 3-dimensional object. And that is how it sounds. And finally, I have sent this guitar to my reverb just to glue it together with the rest of the mix. And then let's go to my couple of electric guitars. One of them is this, and the other one is this. Just like in the stereo mix, the settings are exactly the same. The only difference is that the mono guitars were added to a third order ambisonics channel. Let me explain you what I did here. So I have my mono guitars, and each of them is in a third order ambisonics track. And the first insert that I added right after the compressor, because I want the compressor to work in mono, is my AB encoder. What AB encoder is doing is just converting this signal to be third order ambisonics. I have put it a little bit to the left on one guitar and a little bit to the right on the other guitar just to achieve the same effect, but this time is in ambisonics. So one of my guitars is going a little bit to the left, one of my guitars is going a little bit to the right. And after that, whatever insert I add in my track is going to work in ambisonics, and that's what I have done with my choruses. Each of my choruses is working natively in ambisonics. Each of my choruses is detecting that there is a third order ambisonic signal coming in and a third order ambisonic signal is going out because this is the width of my track. And like that, this track is speaker agnostic, meaning that it can work with any speaker array possible. And finally, each of these guitars is being sent to a 714 object, meaning that if I open my decoder here, you can see that each of my tracks is going a 714 configuration. You can see that this is going a little bit to the left and this is going a little bit to the right because I encoded them a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right. And that's not all. Each of my objects has been also treated in the Dolby Atmos mix. Let's just explore what I did here. You can see here that each of my objects has been modified. First of all, I have rotated each of the objects so that they go one to the left a little bit and one to the right a little bit. And I have decreased their size a little bit. I have made the width, the depth, and the height a little bit smaller so that it sounds a little bit more compact in comparison to the acoustic guitar. So I could do this even further if I wanted, but I felt that this around here in the 70s was a good sensation. I could also rotate this even further if I wanted. I just want it to be a little bit diagonal. And this works really, really cool because this is a three-dimensional object, don't forget. So it works really, really cool in my 714 environment. And because I have two guitars, one is a little bit to the left, one is a little bit to the side, but these are not mono or stereo objects, meaning that there is information not only in front of me, but also a little bit behind me, because you can see that the object is occupying a square all around me, set diagonally in my room. Really cool. And this is how my guitars sound. Finally, I have also sent these electric guitars to my reverb just to glue the things a little bit together with the acoustic guitar. So it works really cool when I put them together. So if I were listening to this in a 714 environment, you will hear that you have this huge guitar all around you and you have this couple of elements placed, three-dimensional elements placed in your room. And they are very, very immersive as well, but they're less tall and a little bit shorter in size. Now let's explore what I did with my Signals Green instance. My Signal Green instance is a first order ambisonics track and is being also sent to a 714 object. So if I press play, you can hear that it's being decoded to my 714 object because I have sent this to a signals object, which is again a 714 group track. If I open the object, you see that I have changed the properties of this object as well. It's a three-dimensional object, and what I have done here is not only have I done it a little bit narrower and shorter, but I also have made it less tall and increase the height of the whole three-dimensional object so that it happens above my head. So if you were in a 714 environment, you will hear that these palpitations are kind of happening above your head. You could push it even further if you wanted, but this is a nice kind of position that I have found here because it also has intensity on my sides. So it's a little bit intense on my sides. It sounds above my head and it sounds really, really cool because it's a three-dimensional object. So this is my bass song. If I press play to all the background instruments, it sounds quite immersive because you have this huge guitar, then you have the guitars diagonally placed, and then you have this thing palpitating above your head. And finally, I have my lead instrument, which is a stereo object because it was played and recorded with my iPad. So it records in stereo. And what I did here is just convert the stereo track directly to an object. And I made the object to be a little bit smaller, less wide, and a little bit rotated to the left because I heard that there was a lot of intensity on one side, so I just wanted it to be a bit more centered, so I rotated it a little bit so that it sounded more centered. If I press play on this object, you can hear that it sounds quite centered now because I have modified its settings so that it sounds more centered, but not only that, it also sounds more narrow because I have decreased its width, and that's how I placed my main instrument. So if I were to listen to this whole mix together, you will see that all the objects are sounding in a very immersive and cool fashion. Well, and this is the way I have approached my Dolby Atmos mix. You could see that pretty much all I've used was AB chorus, aside from the reverb, just to glue things together, but the base of this mix was AB chorus. Don't forget that you can download this very mix in the link in the description below. We really hope that you enjoyed AB chorus and that you enjoy all the plugins that we're creating for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments and I will do my best to reply. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you on the next one. Cheers!